We are currently
Oh,
recording. Um, I guess we should do an intro, huh?
Yeah.
sure.
Hey, and welcome to the second episode of the Power Punch Productions Book Club podcast. I guess.
It's a cast in which we talk.
Yeah, about a book in which we are reading as a group. So,
Indeed.
this month was Because Internet: Understanding the New Rules of Language by Gretchen McCulloch. And I actually read the book this time.
Let's go.
Woohoo! 3 for 3?
Yeah, Kaden, did you read it this time?
Yeah, I read it before all of you did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, prove it.
We have text proof of that.
Oh yeah, I think that's true.
We're all eat the DMs, I'm not afraid.
I listened to the audiobook all day at double speed.
Let's go.
I have kind of a headache, but it was pretty good.
As long as you finish it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not much better. I literally spent like 4 hours today reading half of it. So,
Let's go.
Well, I
And
read the entire
as
thing in 4 hours, so.
well, you listened.
to be fair, it was also a shorter month, so less time for reading.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
shorter
that's
month,
it.
but longer book than last time, which
Yeah.
kind of an oversight on my fault. But we're all human.
It happened.
Uh,
Sometimes, once in a while.
yeah. So I guess, do you guys want to get into first impressions of the book? Which is,
Sure. Do we want to go in a specific order or just kind of?
That's it out.
Kaden, why don't you go first, since you're the
Oh,
high and mighty I finished the book first guy.
I
Since
am
you're the
high and mighty.
responsible
I am
one.
the responsible adult in the room. Basically, I thought it was incredibly boring up until like the latter half when it started talking less about mnemonics and more into like popular culture and how it bled into language of the
Hmm.
internet. I can only hear about how emojis are a form of visual communication for so long.
My first impressions were about the same. I mean, it's interesting, but like Christy and I were talking earlier about how like a lot of it is it's weirdly stuff we already all understand basically well because we grew up on the internet. It's one of those where she's presenting ideas to us and I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, I understand that."
Which is, I think, why I found it so boring. Is I'm like, yeah, I've been there, done that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what's what are we
exactly.
talking about here?
Um but overall, I think this is a book I would give to like my parents, you
Yeah,
know?
someone who's not necessarily like familiar with it, but doesn't really have like a first-hand
Yeah.
account or experience.
And that's about my first impressions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Like, I do think that it does suck that I can't say I was like fully engaged until like, let's see, was it the emoji chapter or maybe after that? Where I was like, oh, this is kind of stuff that like I haven't really thought about. Yeah, it was about that point, which is 170 pages into the book. Um,
Yeah, it's like for the audio book, it's like that's like 4 hours in.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
2 hours if you double speed it like I did.
it was like it's an interesting topic, and I recognize like something like this does need to be written, but it does kind of it shows like um her place on the internet, and she even says that in the middle of the book that she's like kind of she call herself a semi-internet people or something
Semi-internet.
like that.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
50% internet on my father's side.
But like that is like it shows like you said because a lot of this you just kind of like know, and also the other half is like I'm not a linguist. I feel like I should be, but I'm not. And the difference between me and a linguist is a linguist likes knowing why, and I don't always care why.
Well, and like for the most part, as people who've grown up with the internet, and as I would describe as maybe not terminally, but terminally online, you know, a lot of the stuff we just know from being on the internet.
like just osmosis, or just like that's
Right.
just the way it is. Like
Hmm.
why is X thing? Like that's just because it.
She like
Why is the downvote the downvote?
she went into like that part about how like the period has different meanings depending on how you use it, and it's interesting to me because I never thought about why, but like at the same time it wasn't anything new. um the way I was thinking about it in the car earlier was that it's like it mostly just got me to think a lot more about just in passing think more about why I and other people I know use different like symbols and different words and spellings in certain contexts, but it wasn't much more than a that's kind of interesting anyways.
Yeah.
I'm also like, it was also interesting for me because obviously the only people who know how I message are the two in this call. But it is increasingly rare for me to use emojis or anything. Like occasionally I'll throw in a GIF, but it's mostly like a handful of words or a short sentence. So seeing like the etymology and how people use emojis and kind of like how they fit slot into the form of communications is really interesting from that too.
What I find interesting about the emoji stuff is that like I use emojis differently depending on who I'm talking to,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool because I think we all talk to different people in person differently than we do to like say the group here, and we talk differently here than we would in a more casual setting because we're still recording a video.
There's a certain level of professionalism. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna like sit back and start drop like my normal coterie of slurs and f bombs.
Oh
I
yeah,
understand
that you
that
so
dropping.
commonly use.
Yeah, usually I just kind of sit here and start listing slurs off alphabetically.
Yeah, we go
But
to
I
not
ping
today. We're
Devin.
recording.
Yeah,
yeah.
I hit up Devin. I'm like, hey, get me some new ones. Feeling spicy
Yeah,
today.
just like the ones he invented the other day.
I'm gonna say, is it cool if I bully Devin a little bit for not being here?
I think so.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, he
Like
did.
right
but
now or like
I mean,
in
just in
person?
general, I'll slip it. I mean, I always bully Devin in person, but
Yeah.
just I'll slip some. Haha, got him.
Well, he takes it so well that it's hard not to.
I
You know.
know, on the chin, as it were. But back to the book. Another thing I found really interesting was like the old timey internet, like the chat rooms, AOL forums, all that stuff, and how like a lot of that groundwork for communicative language, a lot of like slang, smiley faces, ASCII art, still sticks around to this day, even despite being it from like the turn of the 21st century.
It's also interesting to see how much of it is different.
Hmm.
She talks about how, like nowadays, if you see someone typing all caps, kind of like one Mister Kanye West, it's viewed as shouting, but back in the day, it was weird to not type in all caps.
I wonder how much of that is because like old school keyboards are like I can't even remember the DOS keyboard was just you didn't have like an upper and
Yeah,
lowercase.
that's I think was what she said it was that it was just normal, and then people were like it's easier just to not do that, and then
Um,
next thing you know, Kanye's shouting about how much he doesn't care about Pete Davidson.
And next year for book club we're doing a book over Kanye. I that's something I dearly want to
just
talk about at length.
I don't know about
Donda 2 listening party.
that.
Oh wait, no, that already came out. Donda 4
Did
listening
it come
party
out?
on his
Oh yeah,
whatever the
his
thing.
fucking
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Anyways,
I think there's a lot of parts of this book that kind of hurt to read about. Like she talked about like chat rooms, and I think the main thing she was talking about with chat rooms is like how we understand like people who are talking to each other in just like a stream of chat where like that's not like really a natural way to speak. Like it wouldn't be normally like me and Kaden and then you and feeB having a conversation and we're having two different conversations and it's just listed out. But like it kind of hurt me because I realized that like I don't think a lot of people get to experience the chat room part of the internet except for like in live streams, which is completely different than what it was back when I was a child, too young to use chat rooms, using chat
Yeah.
rooms.
It's like I never really had the chat room experience personally.
Mm-mm.
I never really got on the internet. I was a console kid, so like the form of communication at that age was Xbox Live. A lot of these.
Oh, worse.
There
Yeah.
was
So I
there was
never. That's actually where I learned most of the slurs actually.
Oh,
besides from Devin.
Yeah. But so it's also interesting to see kind of the etymology and kind of how that culture arose and kind of handled themselves. Like for me, at least this part of this book was like where Christy felt sad because it was like, oh God, I'm old now. For me, it was like it was seeing how like another subsect of air quotes internet people acted and kind of reacted to the changes in communication,
yeah.
which I think, and to a degree, I think the history portion of this book is significantly more interesting than the
Yeah,
etymology.
the actual
Yeah.
like whys and how comes.
I think it also doesn't help that most of us are, like Ryan mentioned at the beginning, are children of the internet, so it's like everything is kind of just second nature to us.
Yeah.
Like I could have
I
skipped a good chunk of this book and not missed anything.
Oh, I'll be honest, I did skim a lot. Like there was a lot of paragraphs I started and was like, okay, I got the idea in the first sentence, and then just kind of going.
And
I
I don't think that's so much her fault. I think that's again because like I don't know if we're the target demographic for this book.
It's
I
like
think this
we're
is something I would give to my mom and dad and be like, this is why when you type something with a period, I immediately ask if I'm in trouble. Like it's not
there
for
was
us.
there was a couple things though. Like she's a really good writer,
Mm-hmm.
and I did appreciate. And I now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder who the intended audience is because some of the ways she would write in jokes about certain things, like I'm thinking of there's a section about what's it called? Sparkle sarcasm?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like she has this way of like listing examples and then when she's still talking about the thing, she like weaves an example through the text. Like she has like a second example kind of nestled in there
Mm-hmm.
and like you pick up on it because like I already knew about this stuff. I know how people use it. So I like was able to pick up her example, which like that's just kind of like an indicator that this isn't just for like older people that don't
Yeah.
understand the internet.
like there's a lot of times it's like she won't explain the joke. She'll just say things that I know to be a meme or I know to be a joke,
Yeah. And
and then like not explain it. And I'm like, ah, humor.
it's good. Like it made some of the harder parts of this book to digest like much more digestible.
I will
But
say while the book was definitely a lot of heady, thank God she's kind of funny or it would be
Yeah. I
miserable.
agree.
yeah. And I think also too like it helps that we're not I speak for all of you, but I don't think any of us are linguists. So
Not
Well, I'll have you know,
particularly.
actually.
Ryan's a cunning linguist, that's
Amateur
the word.
at best, but budding nonetheless.
oh no.
Ryan, just because you understand a little bit of Japanese from watching Kamen Rider does not mean you're a linguist.
Mind
I
your own
hate to break
damn
it to
business,
you.
jackass.
But like I feel like linguistics is one of those things like if you're not into it, you are not. Like there's there's like going to college and be like, I don't like my science classes. And then there's just like not understanding or caring about linguistics. And I'm not trying to say linguistics suck. They're unworthy of study, but like it is hard for some reason to like make myself care about it most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I found most of it interesting, but I also enjoy looking up like etymology and shit like that.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm just a freak.
I like it as like a little trivia question.
Yeah.
I don't like thinking about it like I don't like studying it. Like there's a difference
Oh yeah,
between
no, that I agree.
mm,
Being like, oh, people in this region say this word this way. It's 75% more often than the people in this way. How quirky wacky.
I will definitely say I am of the camp of like etymology has never been something I'm particularly interested in. It's one of those. It's like kind of a question. It's like a trivia thing. It's like, oh, that's cool. And then I kind
Yeah.
of move on. Which is I think another reason why I found the history aspect of it significantly more interesting.
Yeah.
I
I
also
also. Oh, go ahead,
oh,
Ryan.
I was just gonna say I think it's good that she like does explain that like she's on the side that like we should just say fuck it and not try and restrict ourselves to following like dictionary definitions and stuff like that. That we
Which I mean
embrace
has
the way everything changes.
which has definitely been a lot of the way the internet works is like nothing means what it means. It changes. Its language is so fluid within the confines of like internet speak. It's nuts. Like I wish I had a good example off the top of my head. I was just riffing off of it. But like
Drip.
one thing like girl boss, just like for the term girl boss has been through the
Yeah.
ringers so long now, it's shorthand for like it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's just a bit.
What was the word we were talking about the other night? Simp.
Yeah.
Simp.
Yeah.
Simp went
No
from
meaning
having a
anymore.
meaning, no meaning, to no meaning, with like this span in between where like everyone was using it so quickly. I
It.
don't. I don't see simp online anymore.
Hold on. I have a theory. Open up your brains for this one.
Okay.
So, of course,
Yes, girl boss.
like like in this book, it wouldn't be talked about because this was published in 2019. But I don't know, there was a weird thing that happened in 2020, and I think a big part of that is that more people were using social media at the same time for a whole year
I don't
plus.
know. I disagree.
You don't think so?
No, I do agree. I was trying to make a joke about how the pandemic was fake, but
Oh yeah, I mean,
I mean, the
like,
pandemic is fake, but I don't see what it has to do with that though.
but like that's it's so weird to think back like on the past 2 years with that like lens on like how many like how much more people were using social media sites to kind of like I don't know how to say it like get their social fix
yeah,
and how what's the word like
we couldn't go out and intro. She described it as like the third place. Is that what you're kind of talking about?
no like but yeah but no like I'm trying to put this in words. It feels like the past so like from like 2010 to 2019, that was 9 years. And then 2020 to 2022 was also 9 years. Like, I feel like
Oh,
we
we were all
excel.
online so much that it accelerated the rate
Yeah.
at which we degrade slang.
Yeah. That's what it
We've reached
feels
critical
like.
mass.
We have reached
Yeah.
critical mass, and I think you're probably right.
Like,
No,
it happened
yeah.
with Simp, with, uh, God, there's
Bussy,
probably like 10 words.
poggers.
Yeah. Like, any meme word you can think
And
of
poggers
from
is
the.
interesting because poggers was around for a while before it, and then it like accelerated because I guess people were watching Twitch streams nonstop,
Yeah.
and now it doesn't exist anymore.
I think it's like the only times I do see it now are purely ironic.
Yeah,
Purely ironic, or if I happen to like open Twitch and go to like what I would call a normie stream,
yeah.
like Mizkif or something.
Mm-hmm. That one. I don't know what that is.
I think there was one thing I just kind of thought about talking about the third place is like the third place is the concept is like the first place is at home or with a specific person. Second place is like doing something private, but a third place is like going to a coffee shop or a bar or to a like social setting to communicate. I think there's an interesting kind of like trend right now with things like VR chat
Hmm.
in which we are seeing a like combination of the digital landscape, like kind of like the memes, the linguists, the kind of bits you would see in a digital space, but done in a digital third space. So kind of like blending the two.
Yeah. That's.
It's you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that's actually what got me interested in this book was that I saw someone talking about how she talked about the third place in this book because someone was talking about how teens or kids in general, us young folk, spend more on time online for a reason,
Hmm.
and how it's really because we don't have anywhere else to go. It's interesting just to see. I wish he would have talked about it more, but I suppose then this book would have been about that and not what it was actually about.
So
Yeah.
we're 2 for 2 on books. We really wish would have gone into like subsets of what they actually talked about.
And I think too, it's interesting that because again, so her survey was completed in 2017, and this book was published in 2019. Uh, VR chat had blown up in that time, and
Mm-hmm.
I would give the benefit because because that's a 2 year span that you can't add anything to your book. But she mentions TikTok in here. So it does kind of seem like a pretty big blind spot that
Yeah.
VR chat is like not even mentioned. She mentioned Second Life. Like she even has a whole little bit where she's talking about Second
Well,
Life and how that was more of a micro niche than anything, like that didn't reach widespread uh, popularity. Like there's only a small group of people that still use Second Life.
and I would even go so far as to mention like Discord or Skype
God.
or TeamSpeak, right? TeamSpeak and Skype have been around for ages, and like Discord more than the its predecessors is like we have our personal Discord, but there's like you know plenty of Discord servers for specific topics or creators that like people just go and hang out and talk at and interact in the same way, especially those public ones that you would at like a bar or a club or whatever you frequent in real life. And it's kind of weird that she didn't mention any of that.
And I guess maybe like it there's a couple other things I felt like she could have mentioned and didn't. And I wonder if it's more like most of the stuff, like when she was conducting the survey and she's talking about like the clusters of people that started using the internet, where it was like Facebook, Twitter, da da da. In those clusters, I guess maybe she's only really considering like social specific sites, and like Discord is still like a social site, but I guess it's built different.
Yeah, it's kind of like a
Constructed
hybrid.
uniquely.
Yeah, it's like a hybrid between a chat room and like a social media site.
A little
Yeah.
bit of a forum thrown in for good measure.
Yeah, and like when I started using the internet as like don't tell the government, but I was like 12. When I started using the internet, I was using it through like Sparkle Dog sites, and I was still communicating with other people through forums on those sites. Like, and that was pretty significant. Like that kind of like there was a lot of users on that website. It wasn't like me and 5 other people.
I
So
was a
it seems like a another blind spot
yeah.
that I kind of wish was mentioned, but I can understand why it wasn't.
I remember the end of the iCanAskCheeseburger.com days.
I remember posting, like showing my mom those memes on like
Yeah, that
I forgot what the app was, but it was like a turtle,
oh
and they like it was like a turtle, and it was like funny, like not iFunny, it was like the precursor to iFunny way back in the day. And I'd see like the Rage comics. Man, I miss
yeah.
unironically, I miss Rage
Oh, I
comics.
love going through
Yeah.
and downloading Rage comics. um, here's a question I thought of when she got to the meme portion of the book. What kind of weird relationship we have with this book, wherein most of the stuff on the YouTube channel that is going to be uploaded, most of it is what one might describe as shit posts, you know, little memes that are quirky, funny, and like I don't know. It's weird that we make a lot of meme adjacent content or meme content, and here we are talking a book that discusses memes and its relation to society. Isn't that? I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but I just thought it
Like,
was interesting to.
like why we post memes?
Well, I mean, isn't it
'Cause
interesting that she's discussing like how society creates memes, its relationship to communication and society, and here we are, a YouTube channel that makes memes, talking about a book where she explains memes.
Which in meme continuum is just like an even deeper shit post. Like, well, that
Yeah,
shit
like
posting that stuff's
yeah.
pretty epic.
I don't know. Maybe this is
And
gonna
we
get
live in a
dark.
society.
And we live in a society, truly, truly.
I definitely didn't really consider our own aspects of it. When I was reading it purely as like, not objectively, but just kind of like reading it to read it, not really
Yeah,
applying it to
to
our. But I
ingest
think
memes.
that's definitely an interesting point to make, is that like what we make is definitely a part of this new like digital language that they've
Yeah,
introduced.
exactly. That's a
That's
much more intelligent way of describing what I was trying to say.
but
Okay, for you,
also
buddy.
you've made me realize she didn't talk about shit posts at all.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I
Not
mean, she like touched on it
directly.
She kind of she didn't know.
because she touched on it in talking about how like memes are made so that you either get it or you don't. But the thing I think she missed with shit posts is that you're not supposed to get it. No one gets it. There's no first. We get
Yeah.
it. That's it.
You want to touch on the Dadaism real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with Dadaism?
Yes.
Where it was art just to be nonsensical? Like, that's what shitposts are, and it's weird that she didn't mention them, like you said.
Like
Maybe she was just scared.
I
She
guess
is a
too.
Tumblr user, after all.
Oh, that's I hot take. I feel like that is where shit posts thrive.
Yeah,
Like
you probably,
Tumblr, that
probably
is
right.
a fertile ground
Yeah,
for
I don't
shit
know.
posts.
Tumblr is a hive of scum and villainy when it
I,
comes to shipping and shit posts.
Yes,
you gotta know where to look. You gotta know how to harvest your shit posts. Is all
it
I'm
is.
saying.
Like it's easy to ignore. Like glowing beautiful city over here, the shitty sewers that are right next to it that's like poisoning all the water and stuff. Like you can live in the city in Tumblr or you can live in the sewers in Tumblr. But you gotta choose it. You don't come across it naturally.
That's also something I want to touch on, is like the nature of curated online experiences and how it kind of relates to things like this in the book. Because nowadays it's very hard to see things you don't want to see or that you're not interested in with the advent of like predictive algorithms and Twitter and Reddit. You can effectively streamline your online experience to be nothing but like Star Wars. Like if you only want to see Star Wars content, there's nothing stopping you from seeing nothing but Star Wars content 24/7
Without trying.
without trying, like little effort. But I do wonder how that's going to affect language going forward, because a lot
Hmm.
of like communal internet language is very much done in the sense that like the popular meme at the time of recording, which is totally going to date the video, is the no X with the Megamind.
Oh yeah, yeah. No bitches. No
I
No
literally
riddles.
riddles?
I literally saved a meme this morning at like when I got woke up by my fire alarm at like 10 a.m. That's the maiden from Elden Ring going, "No
No
maiden,
maidens.
no maiden." And it's like that's a unit, like that meme's everywhere in every community. I wonder how like will a specific community that has very little to no, we'll say for the hypothetical, interaction with other online groups have similar memes through just like general osmosis, or will they start coming up with their own memes?
Well, and they usually do, like, a subreddit will have its own meme about blank.
Like
The
the
interesting
treacle
part,
memes is a great one for
yeah,
that.
the interesting part is when people who exist in that space but then go over to other spaces, take that meme with them and then adjust it to fit this other space.
Is this a crossover episode?
Yeah, exactly. Um yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, this has very quickly become less of a discussion about the book and us waxing philosophically about the nature of online shitpost.
Which I mean, I feel like is where this book is lacking.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I guess to get my kind of wrap around and back to the actual talking about the book and get my final thoughts is I think it was interesting, but it didn't go far enough.
Yeah,
Like I think, like
Yeah.
Ryan said, it's a great primer for the person in your life who's not really internet savvy to kind of get a primer on where we are and what came from. But it still lacks a lot of like the cutting edge of memonics. Like they briefly talk about the dude who was like writing his thesis on Doge memes and how like the internet evolved so fast. By the time he was done
was
writing
it
it,
Doge
had
or was it
yeah.
Lolcat?
No, it was. I think it was Doge. Like it may have been Lolcat, one of the two. But I mean, it doesn't particularly
Yeah,
matter. But by the time he was finishing his thesis, which take around from like a year to 2, 3 on average, that it was already like complete. It went from a current linguistic to a historical
yeah.
linguistic in only the term of like a year to 3 years, which is also incredibly interesting.
It's because memes move so fast.
I
They
remember the.
just
No, go ahead.
and memes just move faster. Like every year that I use the internet, I feel like the generation and I don't know, I guess half-life of memes is just so much shorter. Like it's like there was a point where I stopped using Twitter for a good like month, and like I would only log on like once a day. And I feel like once I started going back to using it more than that, I was already lost. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? I don't understand.
Well, and I wonder if part of that comes from the fact that, like, I think a lot of memes, especially shit posts, are reactions to the way we're marketed to. We're like constantly marketed to, um, and like companies are trying to keep up with memes so they can use stuff like that to market to us. So like by the time you see, a company using a meme, it's already dead, and I think that's just a natural
It's
like
also to piggyback off that.
balancing act to kind of counteract that aggressive marketing that we're constantly bombarded with.
And to kind of piggyback off of that, it's become a meme in itself to see corporations fail to market things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like,
Well, except on TikTok.
The funny thing is, like, I admittedly I don't use TikTok. I have
You
literally zero interaction with TikTok. The
you're
only
better
TikToks
off.
I get are from my dad, Alex, occasionally Kyler and Ryan.
So
me,
like imagine
Not Ryan, someone else. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, that's like
imagine
five.
like the early days of corporate on social media where you had like the Denny's Tumblr account, the Wendy's Twitter account.
Oh,
Think of
jeez.
that. That's TikTok now.
Really?
Mm,
Ooh,
that's
Just
gross.
about. It's
ooh,
actually worse. It's more
ooh.
insidious, I think.
So it's like it's subtle. They got smart, is what I'm hearing.
Well, they're not like overtly trying to meme. Like they'll just comment on funny TikToks.
That's
Haha,
even
this
worse.
is so epic. It would
This
be
is
even
so
more epic
fire.
with a
Spend money at
Wendy's
Denny's.
extra
Yeah.
large steak and
the
shake.
the only companies I see that can make it work are smaller companies who let their social media people run wild. At Pit
My
Viper, please play Fortnite with me, Mr. Pit Viper. Please, I'm begging you.
Hey, my Ryan's on and off again romance with the Pit Viper dude is one of my favorite parts of
I
Twitter.
think what he's doing, I think every once in a while he'll just tweet that he's the old Twitter guy to see what happens. Because there's been several interactions I've had with the quote old Twitter guy saying that he's the new Instagram guy, and I'm like, that's not right. And then I went and I talked to the guy on Instagram, and the guy on Instagram was like, that's not me. And I'm like, what's going on here?
Stop playing with my heart, bro. I can't handle
Yeah,
this.
exactly. It's because he's drinking all that goddamn motor oil. I don't.
But
Hey,
you're
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, you're kind of right. Like, I think on one hand, whenever I see corporate interact, like on TikTok or on any social media now, usually, like, I'm more sympathetic to smaller companies. But does that make it better if they're
No,
smaller?
I think it depends. To me, it depends on whether or not they're proper corporations, or if it's a company, or if it's a publicly traded company, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if
Mm,
it's a dude in his garage making like vinyl shirts and stickers, yeah, fuck
Yeah,
it, have a good time,
if it's
bud.
Scotty
yeah.
Karate from Twitter or Mr. Pit Viper versus
Yeah, I was about to say, Pit Viper guy gets a pass
dude Pit Viper.
this time.
I don't think Pit Viper's publicly traded. I think John Pit Viper has a pretty good grasp on Pit Viper and doesn't want to let it go.
Yeah,
I was
it's
about.
a real.
I don't want to know. Actually, I don't want to look it up.
Yeah, me either. I'm not going to.
I'll take the plunge for us.
Oh boy. I think we can use this second to segue into some viewer comments. I did actually get one question on Twitter from one D.W.Jones or at tweets with hand. He asks, "What is the internet?" I have to respond to this D.W. Jones with a "suck my balls."
Also, Google it.
Yeah, dumbass.
Goddamn nerd.
Fucking asshole. Don't you have, like, class or something?
Google's
Jesus.
free.
Fuck that guy.
Okay, actually,
Pit Viper is not publicly traded.
Yeah, see? So, that's what...
Big
that's what I
win.
figured.
Big dubskis.
Diversity win.
Okay, I will ask one question, and it's, like, related to the book, but
No.
kind of not. So I already said she published this in 2019, but most of her survey information was conducted in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the information in this book is up to 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Which is eons of internet time.
Yes. Or, if we're being generous, 3 years old. So we already talked about a couple things she didn't talk about, but, like, is there anything else you can think of that has changed in that time that she hasn't even, like, been able to consider? I know she briefly mentioned TikTok, which is crazy that how much TikTok has blown up in the 2.5 years since she was able to stick that in there.
In terms of, like, language or just in general?
Just, like,
because we
mostly language, but
we mentioned
anything.
stuff like Discord and VR chat blowing up. I'm not sure, because other than those two things, I think that's pretty much it.
The thing that I noticed, and I still don't know how to feel about it. So a lot of, I'm gonna call them kids because I'm pretty sure they are kids. A lot of kids on Twitter now, they use what they call tone indicators. And she actually talks about something similar in this book where it's like, carrot/sarcasm carrot.
Oh yeah, like from Reddit, like /sarcasm.
Yeah. So a lot of kids on Twitter use tone indicators now, but, like, genuinely. It's not just like a noting when you're sarcastic. It's like, there's a sarcasm tag, there's a serious tag, there's a genuine tag. I don't actually remember all of the tone indicators.
I think that the fact that we've been trying to put in tone indicators since the early 80s and it still never really caught on is indicative of how they work. Because, like, sarcasm loses a lot of the humor whenever it's like, oh, this is a joke, says joke. It's like explaining the joke. But at the same time, I think it is kind of necessary going forward.
Well, here, let me list off what some of the, like, I found a master list of tone indicators. Let me list off what some of these tone indicators are, because I think it's different than what I've seen before. But I still
with the sauce on there.
No, okay. But I still only see I still only see kids use it. So there's one for joking, half joking, sarcastic, genuine, serious, non-serious, positive connotation, neutral connotation or negative connotation, platonic, romantic, copy pasta, lyrics, lighthearted, not mad, a little upset. There's one for vague posting, not subtweeting, sexual intent, non-sexual intent, rhetorical question, teasing, inside joke, metaphorically, literally, hyperbole, fake, threat, and clickbait.
I think they're useful, but I think an issue with them is that they're not going to be standardized. And I think
also
for something
the
like
sheer
that to work,
amount.
yeah, for something like
Yes.
that to work, it needs to be standardized.
And a couple of these kind of have, a couple of these are kind of double. Like, there's two different ones you can use for the same thing.
Yeah. And I think that also like the key to any sort of internet slang or information. So there's a reason that the one that's like the one at least I see the most common is /s.
Yeah.
It is simple, it is quick, and everyone knows what it means. When you start breaking into like you need a chart to decipher what this person is saying, you've kind of defeated the initial point of language, which is to communicate. And while it's like I think it is a good thing to have, it wraps around to being more of a hindrance than a help. If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it.
Yeah,
because
I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think I'm not sure if it'll catch on.
Well, yeah, I think it's like I said, I think it's like not a bad thing at all. I am highly skeptical it would ever catch on, knowing the internet.
I would have to see them. I think.
Most of the time, most of the one I see is genuine. Like I see a lot of genuine tone indicators.
It's just a type in genuine, or is it?
Yeah, but to say
it's
that like
/gen or /g.
But at the same time, you could just put genuinely in. Like I am genuinely upset, and I feel like that would convey the tone.
But hold on, like for example, on Twitter, like there's a headline like Drake, like here, like right now I'm looking at the tag Drake Bell. People recall Drake Bell's role as Timmy Turner in a Fairly Odd Parents movie. I could comment on this tweet and say, wait, Drake Bell was in Timmy Turner /G, or I could say genuine question. I feel like those kind of are two different ways to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is like again a linguistics thing. Like they do mean something a little different.
But it's like for me, it's like I personally would go with genuine question because I think that states the intent. At least the intent I would have when that is like I am genuinely asking. Like,
and
please
you
do not bully me.
You don't have to have You don't have to have knowledge of what all these codes mean prior to.
As opposed to hypothetically the responses being like, "What's that mean? What's /G or whatever?"
Right, but
I don't think they're bad. I think if it was,
I'm not saying it's bad. Yeah, I'm not remove that. What I'm saying is, it says a lot that all of us would say genuine question instead of /G. Like when you're on the internet, I think how to say this. Like I think stuff like that like ages you. It tells other people how old you are.
Boomer alert.
True.
Exactly. Like I guess that's more my point of it. Like I see mostly younger people use it on Twitter, and I see it mostly in like stan communities. I don't really see it a lot generally. I just see it in like communities of people that spam post about the same YouTuber.
And like stan communities are gonna have their own lingo in and of themselves. All communities are gonna.
Stan community lingo scares me sometimes. I'll admit that straight ass.
Yeah, it's.
Kaden's mad at me because I'm Blood Angel's bias.
Don't.
I can't hear you over the sound of your rotting corpse, Emperor.
Shut
Damn.
Hashtag greater good.
Hey, that's just gonna be like in a future episode of this podcast.
Oh god.
Oh
that
god.
A teaser for a later book.
Oh yeah.
I think also like my other point with this is Twitter's scary.
Twitter's scary.
I was thinking about while I was reading this book, I made my Twitter account in 2018, my first Twitter account in 2018, and I remember I didn't actually use it for a long time because I couldn't like people had to phrase tweets differently because that was still when there was like the 120 character limit. People had to phrase things so oddly to fit the character limit that I couldn't understand half of what I was reading on this platform.
What is this fragment? What does it mean?
My brain could just not wrap around it. So I just like made the account and didn't use it for several months because I couldn't like figure it out what people were saying.
it also moves so quickly, which is why like I use Twitter so much, because it's a constant stream of stimulation that my dopamine deficient brain craves, but like can also understand being afraid of it for the same reason.
It's
Not
I
to
mean,
trauma dump.
I used to use Twitter a lot all the time. It's just like how in or out you have to be with anything internet. Like if you're in, you have to be all in, and you can't really be half in.
I barely use Reddit because Reddit scares me.
Where I am, on the other hand, an epic Redditor, but not much of a
Yeah,
Twitter guy.
fucking shows.
I mean, I lurk. It's rare for me to
/S Kaden,
post on
sorry.
anything, let alone Reddit specifically. I am a huge lurker. Which is also kind of another interesting thing is I think, oh, that's something she didn't really go into. I think it would have been interesting is like
Lurking.
the economy of like lurking versus posting. Like, because at the beginning of the book, she talks about like how language, despite how random, is somewhat standardized. Like when you slam your hand on a keyboard, it'll usually be a not the same combination, but will share characteristics with other people who do the exact same. And I think that would be interesting to apply that like what is not like what does it say about the kind of person who is a lurker? Does it like a specific language thing? Does it come from a basis? Like what's kind of there with that?
How much you absorb if you just lurk. Like
Yeah.
if you're not actually using the language you're absorbing. What does that mean?
Yeah, like how much do you understand versus how much do you not?
Yeah, like for example, within my own experience, I as the lurker, Ryan and or Kyler, both are very cutting edge with what's hip and what's happening.
For real.
And I get most of my slang from them. And it does tend to be a little outdated.
Well, but part of that's because we like to use the outdated stuff.
Yeah, because the outdated stuff rocks. They're such lame.
Because it's funny. We either use the old stuff or we use the brand new stuff that no one likes.
Cream, bro.
Whatever everyone hates the most, that's what we pick.
Yeah, so maybe this isn't the basis for a discussion about this.
We're outliers. I guess that's a pretty good stopping point, don't you guys think?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else aside from waxing poetically about things I wish you would have talked about.
Yeah,
which is pretty much all we did, huh?
The 3 different books with related topics that I would have rather read.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we're not 3 for 3.
Yeah, well, I don't think Chuck Tingle really.
I was gonna say.
Oh god, it is Chuck Tingle next. I forgot.
Don't forget to tune in at the end of next month, and read along while we read Chuck's Dinosaur's Tinglers Volume 1 for March. You can comment at us either at PowerPoint or I think it's at Punch Boys for Twitter. My Twitter is at RyRyinRed. Kaden's, yours is
PPP Kaden.
You can also join our Discord. The link will be in the description. Yeah, I guess that's about it.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
God bless and good night.